Hey everyone! So I thought I would do a video on approaching and stroking your guinea pig when it's in the cage. And this video is kind of in response to lots of queries and concerned messages from people who are worried that their guinea pig's not getting any tamer and is going to be skittish and afraid of them. So if you're one of these people, maybe you've just had guinea pigs, you've not had them for too long, and the first thing I'd say is that don't worry, a lot of guinea pigs are very skittish when they're first adopted or got from the pet shop, and taming is a lengthy process, so it can take a good few months before you see any major improvements. But taming is also one of those things that you carry on building on even when they're grown up, even when they're adult guinea pigs. So no matter what age they are, you can always improve, you can always help them to become more confident around you as an owner. So I thought this video was a good place to start, as approaching them, stroking them when they're in the cage is often one of the first things that we'll try to do as a new owner to bond with our guinea pigs. There are two things that we need to keep in mind when we are taming in general and when we're approaching guinea pigs and stroking them in the cage. And those are that guinea pigs are prey animals, so that means they have instincts to run away, to escape out of potentially dangerous situations, and we need to learn how to deal with these instincts. Which ties into number two, the fact that taming is just as much about them learning as it is about us learning. So them learning to trust us, realising that we're not going to hurt them, and us learning how to predict their behaviours and work around that when we're trying to bond with them. My first piece of advice is to not approach the cage too quickly, so don't just kind of barge into the room, go right up to the cage and start putting your hand in. You're going to take them by surprise, and that instinct that they'll have to run away will kick in and they'll be scared. What's much better to do is to approach the cage slowly. You might be talking to them while you do it, and kind of just stand by for a few minutes just observing them, and then they can get used to your presence. So when they know you're in the room, they know you're there, maybe you're talking to them, getting them used to your voice, then the next thing to do is to put your hand somewhere where they can be aware of it. Now when you're doing this, place your hand to the side, because their eyes are on the side of their head, so they might not necessarily be able to see it very well if you just put it straight directly in front of their head, and it also might be seen as a bit confrontational if you do. So I kind of just set my hand somewhere to the side where they can be aware. They can sniff it if they want to before I go and stroke them. You want to make sure that they can see it before it gets too close. So if, say, Twiggy had her head down in the hay, she's having a sniff, and my hand takes her by surprise, then she's going to run away and we'll have to start over again. Another example is if they're facing away from you. So again, I'm going to surprise Willow if suddenly I put my hand somewhere and she sees it when it's too close, and it's going to take her by surprise, so she'll run away. It's very important that you don't chase them if they do run away. If you chase them and maybe they feel your hand touching them on the back as they're running, that initial instinct, which was not necessarily something that they could control, it kind of gets certified and they think, well, yes, I'm right to run away, I'm right to have this response because now I'm being chased. So we want to avoid doing that at all costs. The third thing that we need to think about is where they are in the cage and what their escape routes are, especially if they're very skittish piggies. So this is kind of split up into three groups. Number one, they might be somewhere in the middle of the cage or somewhere exposed where they can run in any direction. Number two, they might be somewhere a bit more enclosed, might feel a bit safer, but also their escape routes are limited. For example, a litter tray or a bed, or something that's kind of still open but slightly more enclosed than just being dead in the middle of the cage. And the third option is when they're somewhere much more enclosed, like in a hidey hut, or somewhere where they've only got one entrance escape route. So here goes for the first one. I'm not going to take her by surprise by casting a shadow and making her aware of me. I'm going to put my hand in slowly. She might have a sniff of it. Now she's in the middle of the cage, so this is not a good place for skittish piggies. Yeah, she's actually gone somewhere where which wasn't an escape route in the beginning, but she's made one out of over the top of the bed. So we'll have a go with Sprite. Okay, so she's kind of put herself into the corner, so she's not that exposed. We'll kind of put my hand near her, she might smell, she might know I'm there. If I go to stroke her, she's okay with that. With very skittish piggies or piggies that aren't tame at all, then the chances are you're not going to be able to stroke them when they're in the middle of the cage and they've got lots of different routes they can escape in. Our next option is when they're somewhere a bit more enclosed. It might be more successful because they've got less escape options. So here's Twiggy in the hay box. I'm going to put my hand in so she can see me. She's not running away, she's not following that instinct, and I'm going to stroke her on her head. Oh, and she's like saying, go away, but she's not running away. So not a good idea to try and approach them when they're moving from one place to the other, because they won't be able to see your hand coming at them as easily, so they might be taken off guard and might run away because of that. So try and approach them when they've been sat somewhere for a good few minutes, they're settled wherever they are, and they're not travelling from one place in the cage to another. Now the third option was to try and stroke them when they are in somewhere a bit more enclosed. Lyra's just gone out of shot, but anyway, I'll carry on talking. So if they're somewhere a bit more sheltered, where they might only have one exit entrance in and out, then we might think, oh, it's not good to go and try and stroke them when they're in there because they might feel trapped. But in actual fact, this can help some very skittish piggies learn to get used to us. And obviously all piggies are different, so it might work for some and not for others. Personally, with Lyra, I found it worked, and this is because she wouldn't let me stroke her anywhere else other than when she was in a tunnel or in one of the hidey huts and she really had nowhere to go. I think what's key when you do this is that you only stroke them for a few seconds. So it's just a case of yes, you're invading their space, but then you're just saying, I'm only here for a few seconds, I'm just going to give you a pet on the head, don't worry, I'm not going to harm you. And they get used to you that way. So since then, along with other things like hand feeding and lap time, Lyra has become a lot more brave, and she'll let me stroke her when she's in other places in the cage, not just when she's hidden away in a tunnel or a hidey house. So here is Lyra sat in the hay box. I'm going to put my hand up so she can see. Hello piggy. She might have a sniff. And then I'm going to stroke her ever so gently. By doing that, I also shocked Willow, which then in turn shocked her. So if you've got more than one piggy in the cage, naturally we need to be aware of what the other piggies can see and what they might not be able to see. So you've really got to keep an eye on everyone at the same time. It's also important to think about where on the body we're going to stroke them. So in general, guinea pigs will only really be happy with a stroke on the head or on the upper back neck area. Like that. Anywhere else, especially on long-haired piggies that are far more fussy about where they're touched on their body, they won't like it at all. So Lyra will always run away from me if I start touching her in other places that she might not like. I'm going to leave her alone now. So that's all for this video. I hope you found the tips on stroking your guinea pigs when they're in the cage useful. As I said at the beginning, it's really important just to learn how to read the body language. So taming just takes time and patience, but eventually it is so rewarding when you really start to bond with your guinea pigs. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions whatsoever, then please ask below in the comments and I will try and get back to you. If there's any other taming videos that you want me to do, then I will take requests for those as well. So as always, thank you for watching, and that's bye from me and the piggies for now. Bye bye! Hi everybody! So this video is all about taming in baby guinea pigs, and this is one of the most common things that I get asked about, so